Hi, and happy 4th of July to my neighbors to the south. Every July 4th, I can't help thinking about a specific passage in a children's book I reread 8 or 9 years ago. In honor of the holiday, I thought I'd share it with you all while I paint a landscape. I think this passage does a good job showcasing how Americans are taught their own country's history and how that leads to the idea of American exceptionalism. The excerpt comes from the book Little Town on the Prairie by Laura Ingalls Wilder. The chapter is titled 4th of July. For context, Pa takes Laura and Carrie into town for the 4th of July celebration. At the celebration, someone gives a speech. The following is that speech. Well, boys, I'm not much good at public speaking, but today's the glorious 4th. This is the day and date when our forefathers cut loose from the despots of Europe. There wasn't many Americans at the time, but they wouldn't stand for any monarch tyrannizing over them. They had to fight the British regulars and their hired Hessians, and I'm going to skip the next bit because it's super racist. A few barefoot Americans had to fight the whole of them and lick 'em, and they did fight them, and they did lick them. Yes, sir, we licked the British in 1776, and we licked 'em again in 1812, and we backed all the monarchies of Europe out of Mexico and off this continent less than 20 years ago. And by glory, yes, sir, by old glory right here waving over my head, any time the despots of Europe try to step on America's toes, we'll lick 'em again. Okay, let's go over a few things in that speech. First, let's address the "a few barefoot Americans" bit. 1. Americans definitely had shoes before 1776. I'm pretty sure shoes at that time period were made entirely using materials found in America, so they could be made locally and not be subjected to the insanely high taxes that pushed Americans to rebel against the British in the first place. So unless there were no cobblers in America before 1776, Americans definitely had shoes. I know that calling them barefoot was to make them seem even more like underdogs and shouldn't be taken literally, but this is a children's book, and little kids take things literally. 2. America was allied with France during the Revolutionary War, so ignoring the barefoot part, it wasn't just a few Americans versus the British and their hired guns. That bit is just pure propaganda. Next, let's discuss the War of 1812. As a Canadian, it's so funny to me when Americans think that they won the war. Everyone knows that Canadians won. But truthfully, the War of 1812 was kind of a draw. Americans won at sea, and the British won on land. If Americans had flat out won the war, Canada wouldn't exist as it does today. I'm not going to get into America's role in Mexican independence because I don't know enough about the subject. I blame my 11th grade history teacher. She didn't realize that the class was History of the Americas and not American history until there was only 2 weeks left. So my education in Mexican history consists of watching a movie, not a documentary, a movie about Pancho Villa. So let's skip ahead to the bit about backing all the monarchies of Europe off the continent. That didn't happen. Canada was still very much a British colony. This book is set in the 1870s, so it does take place after Confederation, but that doesn't mean that monarchies of Europe weren't still present in North America. Newfoundland was British until after World War II. This speech, and by extension this book, is just presenting a false view of history to the young children who read it. I know that all history is biased, but Americans are particularly good at twisting the truth to make their country seem superior, while also taking all the credit. I'd find it impressive if American exceptionalism didn't lead to the mess that America is in today. I don't know where I was going with this. My original plan was to laugh at how silly it is that Americans take credit for all the good things in history, but it's just not really that funny anymore. A few days ago, I saw a post on Instagram where this guy said that America is now 1930s Germany and asking which country would become 1940s America. It was so frustrating seeing that because even while acknowledging that America has become a fascist country, there's still that bit of American exceptionalism by positioning America as the heroes of World War II. The truth is that World War II was a group effort. America just swooped in at the end and gave themselves all the credit. It also took a really long time for the rest of the world to get involved in Germany. Unfortunately, it's up to Americans to save themselves. Well, that took a turn. Anyway, happy 4th of July to any Americans out there. Remember that your country isn't as great as you think it is, and get out there and fight to make it the great country that you want it to be. Oh, and for anyone wondering, I'm painting a landscape of what I imagined the Dakota territories looked like in the time that the book is set, and probably still today. Anyway, thanks for watching. Enjoy your holiday and have a lovely weekend. Bye.